Alright, so here's our progress so far. So far I've pulled the intake, scraped the gaskets. Whoever put in the gaskets RTV'd the whole thing. It took a couple hours to take off. So there's a couple bolts that stick through for that air box that are a bit galled up, and I think the one on the left's a little stripped out. Right there is where the distribution block was for the fuel for the carb. I don't know what he wants to do with those holes. That's his problem. Over there, the regulator was mounted with 2 wood screws, and the standoffs that were used were carb fittings, which was a bit funny. Looked cool. I mean, it was original, that's for sure. There's the old coil mount. I think I'm going to reuse that coil, so I'm going to have to relocate that. The old ignition box is right here with the fender well. And like I said, these are those, I don't know, plastic, cardboard, whatever. I pulled out the battery tray. Got to finish cleaning that up. I pulled out pretty much all the wiring that was through here. In the middle of putting another harness on so that'll wrap around, does all the lights, goes back to the distribution block for the fuse back over there. So over here we got all the carb and fuel stuff that I took off. Here's all the wiring that I took off so far. Kind of took a little break from that. I've got the intake all set up and did all the wiring to make sure that everything fit the way it needed to. Tucked a few of the wires. I ordered a new thermostat housing. This is a Moroso steel and it's corroded, so it needs to be replaced. I'm going to have to put the fitting in for this. Has the gauge pack in it, so this will be the coolant temperature sensor. I still have to figure out the oil pressure sensor. So that was the battery box and battery out of it. Here you can see the distributor that was out of it. So it's a hydraulic flat tappet, it looks like. So that's where that pretty much is so far. I might wait and get a hand to put that intake in. It's a bit heavy. I got to take it all apart and clear it first and put it all back together. So I pulled the old tank. Here's the old tank, which isn't that old. I mean, it's relatively new. The tank was not vented. What I think was supposed to be the vent was being used for the return off the regulator. I don't know how much of an issue that caused. I pumped out about 1.5 gallons of fuel. It showed a little under a quarter of a tank, and there was about 1/4 gallon left in there, so there's no way that was a quarter tank. So I just went through, I set up, this is a 430 liter per hour pump, which according to Tanks Inc., which this is basically where the kit came from, that's good for 1,000 horsepower EFI. I do not believe that, but I will say it probably is good for about 700-800. So this car will never see any more than that. I have to do the fuel level sending unit, and that will be that. So if you want to go underneath for a second, I don't know how much you can see under here. This unit has a overdrive unit, so which is basically like a doubler, and it's leaking a little. There you can see. So I'm gonna have to work on that. And here, oh, if you can see, is the ladder bar set up. I don't know how much you can see of that, but there you go. With a QA1 coilovers, that might work on the adjustment. Had a little bit of an issue. One of the rear brake lines was rubbing the coilover, so I tweaked the line a little so that didn't happen anymore. So I ordered the block off for that, which I'm hoping is the same as that because they only list one for these. I have no idea what that hole is for. I cannot find a block off for that to save my life. I can't find anything about it. I am assuming someone drilled that. So yeah, so that will need to be patched. A little telltale sign about some stuff in here. See that? Where it's flaking up? Well, guess what? There is 2 floor pans in here. And as you can tell, it used to be sumped. And somebody went through and tossed another floor pan on top of it. Now the old floor pan's in really good shape. I mean, there's like almost 0 rust on this thing, which is incredible compared to the Le Mans I had. So, I mean, that was a 67. It was supposedly in good shape, and it was way worse than this. There's a, I don't know, that looks like somebody spilled a gallon of paint and never cleaned it up. I don't know what the hell that is. But anyways, so there's a few other things that, kind of, I don't know, I mean, was kind of irritating. We had speaker wire for the fuel level sender. So you can see the original line here. I ordered another one of those. I had to get that from ground up. That was about one of the only places I could find it for a reasonable price. I don't know where some of this crap goes. Anyways, they got like, there's speaker wire for the fuel pump, which is, it's right behind that wheel or tire right there. I'll have to mess with that later. I got a lot of the interior stuff cleaned up. That rat's nest there is for the overdrive unit. That will be cleaned up. That wire right there, I believe, is for the tach. I need to finish tracing that out. I had to undo the fuel pressure isolator, so I had to dump the antifreeze from that in there. I got a couple other things. He wants to get rid of all of the all of the switches on the shifter. So I am about 3/4 of the way past or finished on that. I ordered a relay fuse block for right here. That is going to do the fans, the line lock, probably a couple other things. I ordered a new one of these. This isn't horrible shape, this terminal block, but I figured while I'm there I might as well replace it. I ordered a new horn relay. He said his horn wasn't working, so I told him, you know, I hooked the battery up to the horn and it worked fine. So that's quite corroded, so I figured I'll give it a shot, replace that, see where it goes from there. He said the wipers weren't working. I found out they were unplugged. I plugged them back in. We'll have to wait until we're done with this to check that out. Ordered new battery cables to go from the battery down there into the ground clamps, so that should be good there. I'm trying to think what else. There's a few other things that I've ordered. I ordered a new oil pressure sender, new temperature sender. This is the temperature sender that was on it, the little gauge down at the bottom. That's gone. There's no reason. I mean, there's a temperature gauge on the dash. There's no reason to have another one in there. That's crazy. And the fuel injection is going to have another temperature sensor, so you don't need 3 of them. Hell, you don't even need 2 of them. But it is what it is. I mean, I don't know if he's going to run the display all the time. So I have to finish cleaning up from scraping. I vacuumed everything out of those ports and cleaned all those up. I scraped to clean all this out. I still have to vacuum it up and then wipe it down. So I'll wipe it down with mineral spirits right before I put the new gaskets on, which are right there. So he's got new gaskets. That's a new fan shroud. I'm not a big fan of the chrome, but it's not my car, so whatever. So here is the new radiator. It is a 3-inch. I had to get new mounts or isolator mounts for that because it's 3-inch. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I straightened up the best I could these mounts right here that were bent. This is the fitting that was bent from when it was dropped. So what I did was I ordered an 8ANT, but it has a female in here, so that female will go in here and it'll completely eliminate this. I think I have to order a 8 to 6 here because he's running 6AN braided. So what I'll do is I'll run it all. I've got it sitting in here, a couple loops of that. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with this fuel filter. No idea how to mount this thing. Not a big fan. But anyways, I don't even know what I guess I could look up the part number and see what the what filter media is in there. So I've got a few other things. I've got tons of fittings, so I'm almost positive I have the fittings I need. What I do not have, and I will have to make a trip to Napa or something, is I do not have the rubber for the vent and the hose clamps. So I'll have to get that. So other than that, that's where the Chevelle is. There's the fuel line where I pulled it out and drained it. So yeah, maybe I'll make some progress this weekend. If I can get that fuel line, I'll have the tank in. I gotta get some big hose clamps for the filler neck, and other than that, there we go.